We are live, but I'm going to check it out.
Okay. Hi, everybody. What time is it? 1:05. We're 5 minutes behind, as usual. I hear something in my earbuds that we shouldn't be hearing. That's Brittany's checking out. But sounds okay? Okay.
Good as we're going to get. Not being
Yeah.
super professional.
Yeah. And we're in a different location of the mall. As soon as you sat down, I got worse.
Oh, Lordy B. What
Hello.
is going on?
There we go. Okay.
My phone? It's my phone.
It's your phone.
Interference.
All kinds of interference. Now sounds pretty decent.
It's an interference.
Today is July 1st already. Where has this summer gone? Like, we have 2 more months, not even 2 full months, and summer's over. So disappointing. I wish I lived in a place where we had summers that were longer. Not, I still want winters. I used to say no winters. Now I still like the change of seasons, but I sure do wish we had longer summers.
I wish that everything was like 77.
Yeah, that would be nice. Spring. You like spring weather, huh?
Yeah. But I don't like storms, like tornado storms. I don't never did.
They don't bother me.
Okay, well, we changed it up. We're at the round table today.
Yep.
Hopefully you guys don't get that interference background noise that we're kind of hearing here. And I don't know what's going on. We never have good sound. So we're live. It is episode 8 of Brass Knobs and Back Talk.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And today's topic is a little bit, take us as you will, but maybe a little bit more strongly attitude. As far as our topic goes, we are talking about pet peeves of ours when it comes to antique malls. And
so, like, when we go into a place, what's your pet peeve, right?
Right. Of our mall in particular and others that we visited, just in general, kind of, I guess, not even antique malls. You probably could generally categorize this to a point of all business owners, all business types. What's your pet peeves when going into a store or business, things that bother you?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of made so I texted her probably about a half hour ago. I'm like, make a list of 5 things that are your pet peeves. She responds 1 second later, and she's like, done.
That's true.
I was like, oh, okay. Add
Make
5
up
more.
I only added 3 more.
And I tried to think of some that probably she didn't.
Yeah, we don't even know what our lists say in comparison to each other.
Yeah. So, and my guess is we probably are going to have quite a bit of the same, so we'll collaborate on the conversation when that point comes.
Yeah.
But I made my list of a view from a customer versus being a vendor versus being an owner. So I kind of categorized all those aspects into one. And then I kind of thought of how it's really hard to run a store.
It is
It's very hard to manage and run a business of any kind, especially when you're talking about something of this aspect and ratio as far as the amount of different
items, the magnitude of all of it together.
We deal with over 150 other owners. Right? Because
just
they each own their own spot right here at We All Spoke. And we're talking another 200-ish plus or more at Centerville location. So when you think of a list such as this, we have a lot to kind of go off of as far as spots to look at that may give us some of the heebie-jeebies a little bit or may make us excited or not. So anyways.
So like she said, you could look at it 2 different ways.
Yeah.
I was thinking of, like, when I'm a customer and I go into places that are antique places, what's my pet peeves?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at it from a perspective as, like you said, all the areas, you might come up with different ones.
Yeah.
So.
And that's why I just said yours.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying to think I was going to kind of look both ways. But we have an Angie's list and a Brit's list. So we're going to dive into it. And I think her first category and one of mine on here are...
the very first thing that I thought of. Very first thing.
And I knew that for both of us, and we probably are going to have a different view of the same topic, but a different reason why. So hit the stage.
Okay. So when she told me this, I mean, instantly, like she said, within in seconds, I have my list for it. The very first one that comes to my mind, because it happens to me every time I go somewhere, is the NFS tags, which means not for sale.
And this is you as a customer.
This is me as a customer, because every time I go somewhere, I don't care what state it's in, what town it's in, you find it. And it's okay to have some items in your booth or store that say NFS, but everything I want says NFS. I want that, and it says NFS every time. I can't even remember a time that Gary and I have gone and I've not said that to him out loud, like, everything I want is NFS. Like, why does that always happen?
Well, that's why it's NFS, because they found a treasure they don't want to give up.
I know, and it's maybe hard to find a lot of times, or it's a larger item and they don't want to have to replace it. That's another reason why people put it on. But that is one of my biggest pet peeves, because it affects me as a customer all the time. Now, we try, here we say, please try not to have too many things that say NFS. I get it if it's one of your main staging pieces that you don't want to change it every week. I get that. So you put a high price on it.
Yeah, and we encourage here to use items of uniqueness as far as displaying goes versus your shelving and so on. So it does become a little bit more. You run into things like that.
Yes.
Now I have that on my list too. Okay. My biggest pet peeve, same thing. Like, okay, so I'm looking at it more as, I guess the same way, but in a sense also as an owner or a management style platform too. So when I see NFS everywhere, it makes me think that you're using this as a storage unit spot, or I don't know why do you have it in here if it's not for sale? I was listening to a different podcast not too long ago, and they talked about how they make up like their like vendor book, basically, like what they say has to happen and what you can and can't do. And one of their things on there that they got the most backlash for, but they stand hard on, is every single item inside your space must be for sale. You cannot have anything not for sale. If it's in this mall, it's for sale. And I thought that was wonderful, because it should be. If you're not willing to sell it, don't bring it in. This is not a display. This is not a museum. This is a place of business to sell items.
That's true.
So anyways, if I would implement that, I'm sure a bunch of backlash would come. But I'm just saying, it is a very good point they had, and it made a lot of sense. Yeah. So NFS.
That's one of my biggest ones.
That's one of your biggest ones.
I mean, it had to be. It was the very first thing I thought of.
Yeah. It was definitely in my head when I said, let's make a pet peeves list. But I guess
I do understand the reasoning for a lot of it, but if you have small items and you're just using them because it looks nice with the rest of your stuff, why is it in here? It needs to be for sale.
Yeah.
It needs to be for sale. If it's a table and chairs that we're using, like right now, this is not for sale. But that's because we use it for our customers to sit at.
It's more of a supply than a sale, than an item for sale.
Right. But people always want to buy it. Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean,
so therefore,
we like to have looking and nice things for them as well to be able to use. So
and you're an owner, but you're also a vendor within your own business. So you have to follow the rules too.
Yes. Yeah. and I try hard not to ever put NFS on anything. I don't think there's anything in my booths that say NFS.
No.
It's just like these items, but because they belong basically to the mall for the public, that's why they're not for sale.
So NFS, yes. One of my top things was, you can probably guess, is cluttered spaces.
I knew that's that's number 3 on mine.
Okay. Mine's like cluttered, messy dirty, space, dusty, and from a business standpoint, it's because of safety and basically safety and breaking of merchandise. We come across it all the time. I know you were talking about an incident this morning, but it's just, we have a policy, which is you break it, you buy it, which you see a lot and in a lot of places. So basically that's implemented because we want you to be the most responsible you can be as a shopper. Make sure you're not touching things that you don't wish to pay for.
Exactly.
In hopes that mostly of what our is telling us to add effects to our headquarters. I don't know what that means.
AI.
I don't know. It's telling, or this, that signage verbiage is just there for you to know that these items should be more unique, one of a kind type pieces. So please be careful when shopping. So the cluttered, messy spaces
are not something that appeals to anyone. And I shouldn't say anyone. Some people like to look through the clutter, but it's super unsafe, number one. And I can't stand it when everything's dusty. That drives me crazy. And do my spaces get dusty? Yes, because I don't have time to dust them either. But you need to come in and if you're an owner or if you're a vendor, try to keep things pretty clean. I always feel like if it looks dusty and it's super cluttered and messy, that you don't care. Why should the customer want to pay anything for that item? That's
it devalues the item.
It devalues everything. That's what I.
And then in response, I feel like it does devalue the entire business as a whole because you're allowing that to happen.
Exactly.
So
it's a reflection on us as business owners.
Yeah. And it goes in the same category as using or allowing vendors to use spaces as storage units. We ran into that at first.
Yeah.
We had quite a bit of spaces that were like, okay, you are not doing what you should be doing. You're not truly wanting to sell. You have things too highly priced or not priced at all. The space is just a complete throwdown. And it's not going to work.
Nope.
And as a customer, I would not choose to shop that space. And I probably wouldn't return because now, unfortunately, customers leave with a bad thought in their head versus a good thought. We always dwell on the bad over the good as people. So
you mentioned one in there.
You have storage units on there?
No. No, I don't even see it. That's very clear. I don't know what I was going to say. You said something that was like, I'm going to bring that up. Okay.
Yeah. So we both agree on that as being a pet peeve too. And if you guys who are watching have pet peeves, throw them out there.
Throw them out there. Let us know what they are because, that's only going to improve our business as well. Because if we know what bothers people the most, we can make sure it doesn't happen as much as we can. As much as we can.
Yeah. What's the next one you got?
I have unreadable tags. And I don't just mean messy writing unreadable. I mean,
that's both our second option. That's both our number twos.
Is that our number twos?
Yeah.
I also think that includes when someone has a booth set up and they turn all their tags so you can't read them. That irritates me to no
I don't think they do that on purpose. I think they're not particular enough, pay enough attention to detail.
I'm sure. I have been in some booths that they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Not here, but I've been in some places that they do, and I think that's just their policy, possibly. You still see the tag. You may as well leave the tag facing out so you can read it. I've noticed as I've gotten older, it's harder for me to read certain things because bifocals, trifocals, and lighting just make a huge difference. So if it's not legible, that's one of my big things.
Yeah,
it's not having it legible.
I have tagging as one of my top as well, but in some different reasons. Yours was unreadable tags. Mine was tagging to make sure things are tagged.
That's on here.
Yeah.
No tags.
The prices, so making sure your price is very legible. So it kind of goes along making sure they're readable.
Right.
I always suggest as a person on the inside when explaining things to new vendors or vendors, make one side your details and your other side your vendor number and your price very clean and clearly.
That doesn't always work because people don't flip those tags over.
They don't, but I'm talking as a point at checkout, you have a double confirmation of what vendor and price that should be.
Yeah.
On both sides. We have a vendor who does do double-sided tagging, and it does help us.
It's annoying when you're super busy. I'd rather have everything on one side. That's me. And it's caused problems when people do it on both sides.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
we disagree.
I'm just saying. I think it's better to put all the information on one side. If you have extra detail information you want to put on the back, I'm okay with that.
Uh-huh.
No big deal.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have to have
Pertinent
less words on
information.
one side.
Yeah. Don't
and
put your
more
vendor
clear.
number on one side and the price on the other. That does not work.
No, and that's not what I said.
I know.
Okay.
I'm just don't want people to get confused by that because that's annoying.
Where the tag is placed, I think, is one of my pet peeves. If you're going to have an item that is of value and you stuck this sticker tag on a very prominent point of that piece, let's say a vinyl, an album per se, we have to take that tag off. And a lot of places do that. It's not just us that take tags off when at checkout. But that person's buying the item. They don't want to keep the tag on at home either. You've now ruined the
aesthetic of what they bought it for, maybe.
So be cautious of how you're tagging and where you're placing. So think of paper products, make sure that you're tagging the right way. On the same note, how do you get across? How do you get away from that? How do you avoid that? Because everything has to be priced and for sale. How do you get away from that?
So on albums, I always tell when they ask, some people ask, but if you turn your album over to the back, there's usually a little UPC code that was there. Put it on that. Mm-hmm. That's not so obvious as your top corner or the front of it.
I mean, ideally, we'd love to see majority of the things in here never have a UPC on them because we're talking about products that were never mass merchandise, but
that's not
right. That's not always the truth case. But yes, I always say put the price tag where it would originally have scanned at a system. Or put it on the bottom of things. Think about the type of product, like we said, paper versus glass and so on. Think about the type of tags that you're investing in because, some customers who are avid collectors are going to bypass your product because they know that will ruin what they're paying for.
Too, and they will complain.
Mm-hmm. And they have the right to.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And as owners, we should be on top of that. Yeah.
So in our books is another thing. We kind of have that taken care of. Pretty much everybody follows us. Not everyone, but I would say 90% of everyone does. Take a pencil and lightly put in the corner of the front page, lightly, so it can be erased with a pencil, your vendor number and a price. Then you take a little sticky note and stick it in with the title of the book and the price and event. And the reason we say do both because those little stickers are easily removed without damaging any book parts. But they can be moved to another book. So if you have the prices that match up, they can't do
double confirmation tagging, and that's one thing we do.
Yes.
Try to implement as much as possible to
because
detour
we have
people from theft.
We have to have tag to give back to our vendors. Not everybody does that.
Sure. That's just our policy.
Yes.
And that could be a pet peeve of some.
Yes. So what's your
my next thing on tagging though? Tagging is such a broad thing. I think. I hate blanket tagging, and what I mean is you have 7 of something and you have a little sign that says these are all for $1 or 1 for $2, or whatever it is.
They're all $1 a piece, but they're not tagged.
Not individually tagged. So then a customer, and I'll tell you why, because people do not read. No one reads a damn thing. And no matter what you are doing, people don't read. They do not read.
Nope.
People do not read.
Nope. You can have every sign in the world and they don't read. Do not enter. They do not read.
No. And so that's just the aspect. That's the nature of human. And so you have to think about ways around that. But blanket pricing, the problem
really not permitted in here.
No. And it becomes a huge issue at the counter. But it also becomes an issue as a customer. Because it says set of 7 and now there's only 5. Well, we've rung them up 2 separately at one other time based on calling the vendor. There's no price on these items. The vendor gave a tag or a price and now they're out the door and now that is not a set. So the one thing with blanket tagging is I don't think it gets updated enough.
That's the problem.
Second thing is things get moved because we touch and we buy and we move and we change our mind and it's in a different space and now that blanket tag means nothing. And they get misplaced, they get moved on the floor, they fall down. But the biggest thing is there's not a tag on each piece at the register.
Like we have to believe the customer. Who knows what they saw? Who knows if they're truthful? Who knows if they even remember the right booth?
Yeah.
I mean, it's irritating as all get out when you're an owner and a person working.
Yeah. And I think when you become a customer and there's not a price tag on something, again, the items. Yes. So blanket pricing is one of my
Okay.
And the biggest one, and I can't believe you didn't say this.
Well, you don't even know. I still got 6 more on my list.
Well, this is still under tags.
Okay. Okay. I had tags unreadable, and I had no price tags. That's 2 things I had for tags.
Okay. Which we both
covered.
said those.
We've covered.
Other price tags still on an item.
Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't.
I can't believe you didn't either.
That is one of my biggest things.
Yeah, very tacky.
Very
As a
tacky.
customer, I'm like, excuse me, why would I pay this? Because you paid that. Second of all, as a business owner or as a person of ownership within a place like this, it's like, oh my God, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's embarrassing.
First of all, means you didn't follow our regulations as far as cleaning the product goes before you bring it in.
Right.
Second of all, it super, super duper devalues your space.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not shouting out to the big GW by any means, if you can follow what I'm saying, that store that is. But that's the one we see quite often. And lots of those places have come up with tagging systems that have like the cutout circles and stuff. That's due for theft reasons. It's not easy to take a sticker off. And so then vendors will get lazy, or resellers will get lazy, and they'll just say, that's good enough, I'll put a tag over it. Even putting a price tag over the old tag is not a good thing.
No, because we take the tags off and then the customer's still soft.
It's so embarrassing at the counter because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to give them. And if that were to happen when I would be working at the register, I would definitely take the other tag off too.
So
yeah, because it's just a thing that you don't want to promote. I mean, obviously everything that you see in here at one time has been a resale item. It was bought one other time and is being purchased again, or for the 18th time. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Wouldn't it be cool to have a code that follows an item to see how many times it's been purchased? Which also is kind of a pet peeve, but as nothing we can change. Is why do we pay tax on things that have already been tax paid one other time? And that comes from a customer and a business owner standpoint, and we get hackled all the time. Are you kidding me? We have to pay tax? Well, yeah, we have to. We have to
regulations.
We have to record what we sell as far as taxes go. And unfortunately, that item has been taxed more than 8 times probably.
Yeah, so
taxes, we're not getting involved in that. But anyways, that could be a little thing. But anyways, take your old tags off.
So you want to know what my 1, 2, 3, 4th one was?
Sure.
I bet you didn't put this one on there.
Probably not.
Not being greeted when I walk in.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it is so, especially if it's
I didn't think about that because I was thinking about us, and we do.
I know. And all the girls do. I mean, that's just one thing now.
Yeah.
But we've been in places where it makes us feel super uncomfortable, especially if you're the only ones in there and it's a smaller space. And the person behind the counter didn't even acknowledge that you're in there. That is the weirdest feeling.
I will say that I agree with this, but I also believe it's a generational gap thing. Go ahead. So? Yeah, because, and I'm not saying that I don't appreciate it, because I definitely do, but I also like to be left the hell alone.
Well, I do too. I just still want to say hi when I walk, and I expect someone to say hi back.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you, but I'm saying I think it's different views from different age groups for sure.
Agree. But the younger kids that we've had working in here, they always say it.
Well, they learn from example.
I mean, I barely even had to tell them, and just watching.
Well, I think too, though, when we train, no matter if we're training or something, and we always stop and pause and say hi to whomever comes in. So, anyways, unless you catch somebody in a bad time, which you always try as a person in charge.
If they're super busy and they didn't see you walk in, that's another thing. But if you're the only one in there, or there's only one other person and you walked in and they weren't doing anything, the owner or the person working, I think it's a little it's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't deter me from buying, although if you don't speak to me at all, even when I bought something, and you're just, the whole situation's weird. I'm like, when I walk out of that door, I say, what the heck? It just blows my mind. Anyway.
Yeah.
What else is on your list?
I got a lot.
I have 3 more items.
I have one that you probably would know that I would already say is signage.
No, I didn't put that on there.
But I figured that you would say that I would think that would be. Pet peeve of mine is over signage. First of all, I mentioned that people don't read. Well, they don't read, and especially if you put too much of one thing up, they're not going to read it either. Too much of a thing is a bad thing. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Right. So I think the less signage is better, but to not have signage is also a pet peeve. But just to get your prominent information out that pertains to this time frame within your business is what you should have signages of. And the biggest pet peeve of mine is to see sign after sign after sign after sign of negativity. Mm-hmm. Do not do this. Do not do this. You cannot do this. Please do not enter. Do not do this. And we have some in here, and I tear some of them down. But it's you don't want your customer to leave with a negative thought in mind. Man, these people didn't want us here at all. They didn't want us to touch a damn thing. We weren't allowed to go here. We weren't allowed to go there.
We're allowed to do this. We're allowed to do that.
They're closed this day, that day, and that day. Yeah. I mean, like, so when you're thinking about it as a business aspect, you think about how do I promote largely on the positive things that our business has to offer, and how do I inform in a small way that you're not allowed to do these types of things. And on one thing on the front door, if there's more than 2 signs besides your hours on the front door, forget even putting a damn sign up.
Because no one's
going to read them.
You saying that, something I didn't put down was if you're in a business and their closing time is a certain time and it's 15 to 20 minutes ahead of time and they're turning the lights off.
Hours. Yeah, hours is being
I didn't write that down, but that is a pet peeve.
Hours as far as not closing on the time they said they were going to, and not updating your hours.
Yeah.
When we first took over Centerville, we had a lot of issues with hours, and the main thing was because the way they were advertised, and they were advertised in so many locations, for us to change anything and keep things consistent would have cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's like, how do you simplify and organize your structural hours is kind of mind-blowing. That's even an issue. Because if you're open as a business from X time to X time, you're open as a business from X time to X time. Yeah. And as a business owner, as an employee, you should be here 15 minutes after and expect to be 15 minutes late, because you don't walk out the door at 6 o'clock just because we close. So as a customer, you should feel like you were their very first customer or their middle customer of the day at 6 p.m. if their hours are at 6 p.m. I worked for a place when I was younger, and it was you never hit a deck of lights until the last customer's out. You never do anything. If you need to inform a customer that you're about to close, do that in a respectful way.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is to push a customer out the door. Now we're after closing, we're talking about a different story. But politely saying to that customer, hey, look, we our closing hours are 10 to 6. We're open again tomorrow from this time to this time. Is there anything I can help you with right now? And just let you know the time is currently 5:55, or the time is currently 6:10.
And we closed at 6.
And that happens.
Can I help you?
And it happens.
It does happen.
So there's different views as far as hours from a customer versus a business owner aspect. Yeah. But hours, man, if you are open this time, be open.
Yeah. If you say you're going to be open, you better
And
be
if
open.
you can't, for some reason, try to clearly
get it out
show
there.
That. And I know emergency-wise you can't, but at least try to get a posting somewhere.
Yeah, it's hard when you have to do that.
Even on phone.
Very, very, very
I don't know, because I've never called here. But as far as voicemail goes, make sure the voicemail always states your hours. And if you have a change in the day, go and edit that voicemail. Say, sorry, we are closed due to unforeseen circumstances today. We will be open again, blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of back organization and time and energy. Yeah. But hours. Okay. What else do you got? Pet peeves.
No music.
Do we have music on today?
Probably not. I heard it earlier, but
we've been consistently busy, so I'm not sure if we recognized it.
So
the air conditioners are running, so I would say music or white noise of some kind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When there's nothing running, it's a weird feeling for me in any space, and I usually catch it pretty quick. Like, can you turn it? So whoever's working, can you turn that radio back on? Because they get busy and caught up and don't realize it. If I'm sitting at my desk and I know it went off, then I will tell them. But I feel like sometimes you need, like you said, either a white noise, background noise of some sort. Otherwise, if you're the only person in there, or maybe you're the only person in a certain area, it just feels like it's not as welcoming, and you feel a little estranged in that spot. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So it's just something to do with, how you make the customer feel. And it does do things to me when I walk into a place. I like to hear music or white noise of some sort.
And my biggest pet peeve is making appropriate music choices as a business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's happened a couple times. I'm like, oh, did you just hear that?
Well, and it's the fault of most businesses in general don't have a specific playlist designed for their place of business, and you turn on a radio station or you turn on some kind of streaming device,
and you don't know what's going to come on.
And you don't know what's going to come on. So I always say, make sure you search something safe, and you don't want to just think about. You want to think about, as the person working or person in charge, is what might deter that customer from coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can't please everybody.
You cannot.
Keep that in mind.
But I do say to try to stay safe from general categories only.
Stay neutral. More neutral.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you can't think of something in that time frame, and we're an antique store, so a lot of oldies type music is played. Sometimes we do play your general hits list and stuff. But you can even search safe or shopping music or general store music, background music, and you can get something of noise on. And we get a lot of questions asked at the front counter. So the more upbeat music is kind of harder to deal with sometimes just because and I feel like this is a place of leisurely. Yeah. So people come in here to escape from the high-paced environment of life, and they didn't choose to go to Walmart on their time off because they wanted something that kind of wound them down a little bit. Exactly. So your music choice has to kind of reflect that a little bit.
So I have 2 more on my list. What do you have on yours? A lot more than 2?
Well, I don't know.
About it a lot harder than me.
Well, I knew about the category before I told you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say one of mine?
Yeah.
This is the thing that I didn't know whether or not to say because it's a pet peeve, but it's also a necessity, I think, to the business. And cases, I freaking hate them. Cases are a pet peeve to mine. They are a pet peeve for many reasons.
They're not my favorite either, but you have to have them.
Yes, and that's why I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to put it on because it's a pet peeve, but it generally, I don't think it's just a pet peeve of mine. I think it's a pet peeve of a lot of others, but it's not for the reason of having cases in the way they look. Like in place, the pet peeve is as a customer. So the category of cases is a pet peeve for a customer. Is there someone available to unlock this damn case for me? Because why is it in here if there's not? And in a small structured space like we have here, we don't have the luxury of having extra employees just for case unlocking. And I'm going to shout out to one place I've been was Jeffrey's Antiques in Toledo.
Yeah, it's north.
Is it in Toledo? Or Finley? Yeah. They have a great crew for their case unlocking. They have tons of cases. And I did not have a problem with any of their cases. So if I was to generally be involved in that place, maybe I wouldn't have this pet peeve. Markle, Indiana, Markle's Mall, they have a shit ton of cases too. And I've not had an issue with that either, but they have the luxury of having a little bit more employee base to kind of cover those cases. And you have to if you have more.
One that's the acronym SAMS in Indianapolis, Brown Indy. Southgate
Southgate Mall.
Yeah, South something Antique Mall. I can't remember what the full name of it is. But they were very good too. They had 2 or 3 younger girls walking around with keys, and that's all they did.
Yeah.
But it was probably...
If we had rows upon rows of cases, and so that would be something.
Super amount.
Now, Centerville, we have more of a designated member who can get to the keys.
Yes, because it's right there by the counter.
Yeah, and there's a little bit more.
And there's
case-wise.
Yeah. But they're not spread out anywhere in the mall.
No.
Here we have some that are in some people's booths.
Now, I love the fact that cases generally have really cool items in them.
Right.
But I hate the fact that some cases don't.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do you have a case if it doesn't have cool items in it? If there's no need to have it locked up, why are you doing that type of thing? And the biggest pet peeve with cases goes along with one of my very first things was messiness and tags and cleaning. Yeah. So as far as the way it's displayed, also one of my biggest things here, if any vendors are listening, I hate the abuse of space.
Oh God.
Does that make sense to me? To you, I know it does to you what I'm saying, but to you viewers, what I mean is you rented this space and now you've just packed the shit out of it. And as a customer, I'm not shopping it. I'm not going to go up to the counter when I already know there's limited people available to do that, to ask to get in this case that I have to now rummage through. And there's probably nothing of value in there because obviously it looks like there
Are
isn't.
we still talking about cases or booths and
Case,
cases?
both, but we don't have many booths like that. But
Yeah, I thought you said booths.
no,
That's why I was like,
no
what? Okay.
cases.
Yeah.
And if you can't see the tag,
It's
you should
annoying
be.
to
I mean,
customers
it's a
because they tell us.
glass case for a reason. You can see through it. You can look at everything and know everything about each product in that case without having to go and get somebody to help you. So we have good vendors who do that. We have vendors who do not do that, and that is a pet peeve. So if you're watching,
You know who
change
you
your
are.
ways.
You know who you are.
You're wasting your time and money. Okay,
Yeah,
next
you are.
thing. Go ahead. Give me one, because I know I have one on here that you don't have for sure.
Well, I'm going to put one on here. It's nasty bathrooms. And I will have to say, you know, like when you're a lot of people that shop antique places are traveling. Okay, so you do use the bathrooms. It's probably even worse if they don't have a bathroom. Many of them don't even offer public restrooms. But if you have a bathroom, you know, I don't want to go into your nasty bathroom. Let me tell you, I've been into some pretty nasty bathrooms. And I don't mean decor nasty wise. Not everybody can have a nice decorated bathroom for the public. I'm talking just clean. I mean, it doesn't cost that much money to clean the bathroom. So that's one of my biggest pet peeves. I got stuck in a bathroom one time, went to a mall, and Gary's somewhere else, and I had my phone with me, thankfully, because I said, could you find some toilet paper for me? They literally didn't even have toilet paper in there.
Yeah.
And the sink was so gross, I wanted to vomit inside it if I would have been cleaner. It was terrible.
Yeah, bathrooms are a big thing.
I mean, if they're public bathrooms, please, you know.
Yeah.
That is the big thing.
If you're going to allow the public to use that space, make it just as reflectable as the rest of your place.
Absolutely.
That was one of my biggest things here. It just didn't, I mean, like we strive to make this the coolest, most unique shopping experience that you can go to. And I said, well, we can't just stop at the restroom door.
Right.
Like we have to make this seem like our aesthetics continue even when you're sitting on the pot. So we do, and we sell things from the bathroom.
Yes, we do.
We had one of our vendors had said, yes, their biggest pet peeve is not being able to see tags in a case. And that particular one does do a good job about keeping those tags flipped. So I appreciate that. And usually has things of value or smalls in that case. So good reasons to have those.
If you don't have valuable items, think about this. If you were a customer, would you waste your time finding someone with a key if it wasn't worth anything to anybody? Like if it's just a normal item. So think about that when you want a case. Put your things in place.
Yeah. And always understand the risk of theft as a vendor.
Yes. I mean, it's something you can't control all the time, although I think we do a pretty darn good job here.
Yeah.
It still happens, and it's always going to, and that's retail in general. Yeah. But
people are people.
Yeah. So I only have one more item on my list, and you may have several. I'm not sure.
I had several.
You can go ahead.
This is one of mine as a customer and ownership or management that probably is not everybody's, and they're like, and you're going to be like, that's dumb. Is symmetry. I hate symmetry when it comes to design of shopping. I cannot stand. Okay, so I have been in places of business that like malls and even in general retail places where and I know most of the world has ADHD these days, so I can't.
They say they do on TV.
Right? No shit. So you can't tell me you're going to keep interest if one space to the next space to the next space, the next space looks identical.
Yeah.
If it's the same map out layout, so this booth is the same size as that booth, is the same size as that booth, has the same color in this booth, the same color in that booth. The types of items are all the same down this row, or
pretty soon you just like walk on by every one of them, don't you?
The lighting is symmetrical. All those things. Mundane, is that a word?
Mundane.
Like mundane, right?
Yes.
Am I using the right word? Mundane your experience. Like it makes you numb, per se. Numb is the word I want. So you're just kind of here. You're walking and you're like,
Nothing's catching you,
like,
your attention.
oh, I wonder
Yeah.
what this business used to be. What time do they open? Like, just different things, and you not let one space catch your eye, not one, because
They all look the
and
same.
there's a mall that is like this, and I really lots of malls are, but um, that is why I think, and customers might not realize it, that is a pet peeve of most people, because they don't know what the word is. Like, why did they have no interest in this place or in your items? And it's because those people are the retailers are not doing a job of making your eye travel. So we always encourage our vendors, use your space. Think about high, low, small, big, this color, that color, texture, volume, all those types of things in addition to what you're selling, because that will make your sales. And as a customer, whether you know it or not, you're being tricked to come back over and over again. So um, I think that's one of the biggest compliments we get back is this. I don't know why, but this is so different. This mall's so different. I really enjoyed it. It's nothing like what we normally go to, and that is one of the reasons I'm telling you why, because the spaces are not symmetrical from one to another.
One of the top reasons for sure.
Yep. Yeah. You can go from one section to another, and it seems like you
went to another
whole different area in life.
That's the way it should
and if your customers are kind of getting lost in the mall, I think that's kind of a good sign, right? Because they have traveled around and they found one item here, and that's led them to another space, that's led them to another space, and now they're like, I don't know if I've been down this aisle. That means you've got so much to offer that they don't know if they've seen it or not yet. Yeah. So you're doing a great job as far as catching the eye. And we really, really, really push on that here.
Yes, we do.
But symmetry is a peeve of mine.
Well, I wouldn't have thought of that word, but I understand.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. And I have one more on mine, and that is lighting.
Okay.
And it just, if it's super dark, I think it's unappealing. It makes it hard to see anything, including tags. So I think lighting has a lot to do with how your items are portrayed too. So, I mean, it's not a deal breaker. It's not something I don't like.
Get hung up on.
Yeah, I don't get hung up on. It's like one of my latter things.
I have been in places, though, that are very, very dim, low ceilinged, and so on, that kind of make it really hard to even see what you're purchasing. And the worst thing is you want to get something and you bring it outside and you're like, what the frick? This was not what I just purchased, or I thought that was blue.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
now it's yellow.
We don't like the low.
Yeah. So anyways, and I always try to say, go up with the eye, and lighting will help that, right? So think about different heights of lighting when you're thinking about lighting, and different types of colors of lighting help. Our cases are not all lit, which is an unfortunate thing, but that would be nice too. So
it would be, but our buildings.
Right, you gotta do with what you could do. But yeah, as customers, not being able to see your products is an annoyance for sure.
So what else you got?
I have multiple sales all the time.
Oh my God, that is one of my big pet peeves. Holy crap, I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah. Multiple sales. So I think if you're going to be a place of business that allows there to be sale after sale after sale after sale after sale, oh my gosh, this place does not value what they're selling.
Nope.
And if you can run a 50% off sale 24/7, market lower.
Yeah,
don't run the sale.
Don't run the sale. You'll sell more.
Yeah. As a customer, I'm also thinking, okay, why are these for sale? Awesome, 50% off to 70% off. I'm going to shop, but why?
Yeah.
Right. So
is there something wrong?
These items haven't moved this long,
Like why? What's the reason here?
And it's more or less of an overall appearance to a business, not just in general to certain spaces. But I think it does, not though I think it does come off to be a tacky appearance to a business when you are constantly running blowout sales.
Think about this as a vendor and a customer. If you have a sale every day,
you lost 20% of your sales.
Well, nobody's going to come in because you have a sale, because There's a sale all the time. And when you have a sale, if we have an event, what good would that do us? I just don't.
Yeah, and there's a lot of businesses that will allow that will do mass sales, and we do not do that unless we're taking the cut ourselves.
Right.
We don't allow a 20% off store-wide or business-wide sale or anything like that. It is up to our individual customers if they want to run a sale, and our implemented rules are only 2 weeks at a time. And then we should continue that rule by saying you cannot run a sale again for another month. Those types of things, or an event in specific. But one reason is we don't want to lose 20% of sales when we're only making X amount of dollars in revenue anyways on that item. Second of all, why would you run a sale when you have the biggest mass market of people open to coming into your place at that time? Yeah. So you're basically, say there's a large event in town and you run this sale, well, now you've lost 20%. So now you're back to having a regular sale day. And then another thing is customers are going to get in the habit. So if you advertise all the time, like, oh, I'm not going to go shopping this time to this time. I'm not going to go in there and shop because they're going to run a sale in 2 weeks. They run a sale every 2 weeks,
So that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I think of I shouldn't say names of businesses online. No, not antique, but a place that has lots of decorative items, and HL is their acronyms. It's got orange letters. Are we all following where I'm talking? But they run sales where it's like 50% off furniture, 30% off table lamps, 10% off picture art.
So you're not going to shop when they don't have the
You're never going to buy those other items when you're buying those things. And now maybe strategically it works great and I'm stupid, but I'm just saying as a customer, I'm not going to go buy a table lamp when they're not on sale, Right. So you've lost the opportunity of having that. And if I want the item, I want the damn item. So I'm going to buy it if it's on sale or not. And I think that's also a generational thing. I get it. But anyways, multiple sales all the time was one of mine. Basically, you're done with your list?
I am. Well, but you brought up 2 or 3 that I
know.
Right
now. I'll bring up another one, and then I'll end with one. And this one I know is one of yours too, is specifically stuffed animals.
Oh my.
But things of flea market value. When I'm going to a place, and I think this would change for multiple people in different things, but that's
I
one
can
of my.
think of something.
I'll let you talk about that.
That's a little bit. You brought that up. Okay, so she's basically saying flea market items. What a big pet peeve is if you have a bunch of items and you want to display it, like maybe you have some decorative. I don't know what, doorknob. Maybe you have doorknobs. Don't display them in a cardboard box. Put them in something aesthetically pleasing, like a basket or a antique wood box or something of that nature. Just don't throw in a banana box or a cardboard box. I forgot about that pet peeve. Displaying and leaving a box in there. That's one of my big pet peeves.
Yeah, I mean, as a customer and a person, you would.
Again, you notice those things.
The biggest pet peeves that we've focused on are things that devalue the item.
Yeah, that's really it. I mean, you want it to not devalue.
Why would it be a pet peeve? It's because it looks like shit. That's why.
Exactly. It looks like shit, and it devalues it, and it makes them all look bad, and you as a vendor.
Yeah, it devalues you as a person.
It does. I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So flea market in general, I said stuffed animals, DVDs, tabletop displays, things that are not clean. Things that you would see, and we understand there's an outlet for those types of things. So if you're going to have that, if you're going to have stuffed animals, and we help the vendor with this, and that's perfectly fine. But we created a space of multiples of those. So. Yeah. And it's not a main focus. It's now a smaller section of what you have. So instead of spreading them all over, you've now categorized them into a smaller spot.
Right.
So it doesn't devalue the aspect of your entire booth.
Yes.
And yes, now the person who came in with a 5-year-old is stopping at your space because they want the toy.
Exactly.
So it's not that we say you cannot have it.
Yes.
We're saying let's choose to not have so much of it.
Right.
And then we know that there's an outlet for that buying.
Yes.
And so we've created another aspect. We
Right.
have the flea market Saturdays that we now implement because we
That's
know
right.
our vendors
And
have those things that they
This
want to get rid of.
Saturday is our third one or fourth one? This is
July 5th.
July 5th. Yeah, this Saturday we have our flea market, 8 to 2.
This is your third one, I think.
Yes, this is the third one.
The second month, yeah.
I'm not sure how many vendors we have. I know we have more.
I don't know. It's a holiday weekend, so it could be a hit or miss with us.
It could be, but we do have probably 2 or 3 more vendors than we have had. But then I know a couple of them won't be here because they have other things.
People like to do it because it's rummaging.
It's rummaging. You get to look for things. You get to make deals. And the vendors here enjoy being part of it. And anybody, you don't have to be a vendor from our mall.
First and third Saturdays of the month.
Yes, it's the first and
for
third
the summer.
Saturdays until the first week in October is the last one. So come and join us, and you can get there you can get to the flea market outside, or you can come through our front doors after 10, and you can walk through the mall and still go to the back on the south side. So you can shop both areas at one time without, going around the building. You can walk through the building. What do you need, Patricia? A what? It won't clear. Okay, I'm going to go help Patricia.
Okay, so the one last thing that I have that's a pet peeve of mine before we end today's episode is checkout time. I feel like we all come from a world of no wait. We hate to wait for things. You go through drive-thrus, you go through fast food places, you go through things that are instant. You order online, you buy online, it's shipped to your house the next day. All those things. We as customers hate to wait. So when we are waiting at a checkout, that's going to make us probably make or break us whether or not we're going to actually buy something. Like, do I really want to wait in line? Do I really need this thing that I don't really need or not? And it also comes down to how the person at the register is communicating with you while checking out. Are they taking an obsessively long time typing something in? Are they taking an excessively long time by boxing and wrapping? And in this type of business, we do those things because they are of important value. So we want to make sure they get home safe. But so that time frame could be a pet peeve for many. And that's something that we constantly try to improve system-wise. So I'm sure lots of businesses alike have that same issue because we are not a place that really has a lot of UPC type quick checkout system allowance. But, again, it comes back to what we talked about. People kind of think to kind of come into a place that is a little bit more laid back and you're not in a high pace environment. So you got to take that with a grain of salt, whether or not that happens and is a pet peeve of yours. It was checkout time was my last one as a customer. Like, how long does it take to check out?
Sometimes that's a problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not just you.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I was saying. So that is what we have on our list of pet peeves. And I'm sure we could come up with more, but the purpose wasn't to be negative. It was to join you as customers and say, yeah, we understand these things need help. Yeah. And they're everywhere. And part of the reason is you come to places to find something to complain about. So you had a conversation that night at supper because we did something wrong. Good, glad. But yeah, so we have we're supposed to have a live tomorrow. Yep. So you can join us for our live at 3 on Wednesdays and live from Wheel and Spoke Antique Mall.
And that's our live sales.
Yeah. So this is Brass Knobs and Back Talk. This is episode 8, Pet Peeves.
All right.
See you next week.
We'll see ya.